Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you. A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. Please note that today is a special pre-recorded interview, so we will not be taking callers this week. So be sure to tune in next week with your dreams to share in your questions. But I hope you enjoy this very special episode, because today we are talking with Lucid Dream pioneer, Dr. Clare Johnson. We'll talk about how dreams support physical healing and what she calls the joy factor. So Clare, let's go right to you. Let's what about the joy factor? Tell me what that's all about.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on your show, Katherine. It's lovely to have another conversation with you. And the joy factor. Yeah, this is something very special and very important in my life as a dreamer. Basically, what I've noticed is that many times when we need a really good dream, when life is too busy, too hectic, there are too many pressures, or there's some anxiety coming through, or there's maybe something difficult going on, like the loss of a loved one, our dreams very often, they rise to the occasion. You know, they'll embrace us, they'll lift us up into a euphoric state of being, a state of pure joy, pure bliss. And I call this the joy factor. Now it can occur in many different ways. Sometimes it's like that really pure, euphoric, blissful state when you're floating and there's light and you feel totally at home, totally safe, and perhaps your dream body dissolves into the light and you wake up feeling revitalized and replenished, gorgeous, right? And also there are dreams where it can be more of a concrete thing, you know, like hugging a loved one who has departed, who is deceased, and feeling that rush of joy, that rush of love. And again, waking up feeling healing has taken place within your very body. You feel that healing. And this joy factor can also emerge through seeing beauty in dreams. There's so much beauty often. And sometimes in a dream, something will catch my attention, just something perhaps very, very strange. Like I remember one dream, there was a spoon, a silver spoon on the table with loads of other cutlery, and it was so pretty and it glowed. It was luminous and it sparkled, and I remember going and looking at it and turning it around and realizing, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming, and this silver spoon feels so real, it's so beautiful, and feeling just the joy of being lucidly aware in my dream and being able to test the dream reality and look at these incredible dream images that were coming up, so vibrant and real. Because sometimes when you become lucid in a dream, it's like everything is doubly alive, everything is doubly bright, and it's just the joy just rises. And then the other one, which many people will have experienced, of course, is dream flying. I mean, have you you must have had flying dreams, Katherine, yeah?
I've had a few. I had one just recently too, but tell me.
Yeah. And how did that feel? What was the feeling for you?
Well, it was incredible. I mean, I shared this dream last week, but it's just such an amazing moment for me that I'm following my partner, and he's kind of disappearing into the mist. So it's kind of a sad moment. It's gray, and I just leap into the air and start flying, and the world explodes into rainbows and colors and balloons, and then when I'm flying, it's just this incredible feeling of liveliness. And I catch up to Max and I land right next to him, and he just turns around and says hello. And it's just like, to relive this dream right now, it's just such a joyful feeling, and like that we have this connection is so amazing, that he's not going to leave me, you know, that he's still here with me, and that, you know, he's always going to find a way to connect. It's such a joyful feeling. I love that you call it joy, the joy factor.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Well, thanks for sharing that dream. Yeah, and so this is it. This is the joy factor. Of course, we can also find the joy factor in our waking life. And what I've found is that when Well, it can work from both directions, both aspects. You can have a difficult waking life moment, and then the dream will bring you the joy factor and lift you up again. But also, the more that you experience joy in any kind of dream, whether it's lucid, non-lucid, whether you're floating in infinite space in the dream or running around with a bunch of other people, whenever you have that joyful moment, for me, it kind of impregnates more into my spirit, that sense of joy. And that's more likely then to arise in my waking life. Even if there are tough things happening or life is super busy, still there'll be these moments where I'll notice something that, like I noticed that silver spoon in the dream. I'll notice something in waking up. I think that's so pretty. Look at that flower. It's a purple flower. It's gorgeous. It's like this happiness flower. And then I'll feel that joy factor rising up in me in my waking life as well. So it becomes something to cultivate.
Right.
And when we actively and consciously cultivate joy, then everything changes. Our perspective on life changes, our emotions change, so we're less likely to spiral down into anxiety or depression or worry, and we're able to lift ourselves up into a far better state of mind, a far healthier state of mind. And when we have a healthy state of mind, we're not only happier ourselves, but we're more able to help other people. We're in a place to be able to be there for others and maybe bring a little bit of joy into their life.
I love it. So we can have these experiences both lucidly dreaming, non-lucidly dreaming, and also in waking life. And I love how you're talking to us about looking for those moments. It sounds like a gratitude practice, kind of looking for the beautiful moments.
Yeah, right. It is, I guess, in a way. It's like it's sort of bringing it consciously into your life, bringing that joy into your life. And I think humans are designed to experience giant bursts of joy. And we run the full the full spectrum of emotions, right? We can feel things so deeply, can feel deep grief or deep disappointment or deep hurt, but we also have the ability to experience these joyful states or bliss or pure happiness, laughter, and it's wonderful to actually have the full range of experiences. But yeah, some experiences are much harder than others, of course, and we don't want to spend our lives bogged down in depression and anxiety. So it's really great to be able to tap into the joy that we have within us and the beauty that's all around us in the world and in our dreams to help us through life, really.
Because dreams really do help us with our mental health and our balancing our emotions. One of my early dream experiences of actually really working deeply with a dream was a dream where I felt really connected and seen and loved by another person. And when I woke up, I had been so unhappy in waking life that I was angry. I'm like, why did this dream come to tell me about joy when I'm so unhappy? But there was something about that I have the capacity for this joy that kind of, whoa, I actually can feel this. So even in the moment of the waking life, I was so unhappy. The dream helped me recognize that I have this capacity. And so I'd love to have you talk a little bit more about how dreams help us with our mental health and help us with our emotions.
Yeah, so I mean, dreams and sleep, their natural function really is to help us, to heal us on every level of being. I mean, if you look at what happens in sleep every night, whether or not we remember our dreams, it's actually not even relevant to the actual process, because whether we remember them or not, we are undergoing a healing process every single night, as long as we get quality sleep, right? So when we sleep, we've got all these unconscious bodily processes which are taking place, these healing processes which are governed by the autonomic nervous system, which takes control of the endocrine system or the circulation. So we're experiencing cellular repair during sleep, immune system replenishing, and it's just such a healing state of being. So all of that's happening anyway. And then when you look at dreams and consider the fact that they're there to help us with emotional processing, so that it means that because what happens really is when we have a difficult situation, the tendency of many people is to ruminate negatively on that situation and start, they have these scenarios in their head and, oh, I should have said this or I should have done that, or if he does that again, I'm going to do this. And you start getting really, really wound up and psyched up and furious. And it's just not helpful, basically, at all. So the function of dreams is what they often do is amplify those emotions, so that we'll have
like
dreams.
that.
So perhaps in a dream, if we're angry with a guy at work, perhaps in the dream we'll have a physical fight with him or shout into his face or something. It's really exaggerated. The anger will really come out, and we'll wake up thinking, oh my goodness, I really do feel very upset with what's happening with that guy at work. But the reason for all this is to actually let those emotions run through us, pass through us, and basically allow them to come out, allow them to arise and be expressed. Part of the function is also to let us know how we really feel about something. Yeah. So sometimes we'll be like, I'm handling work really well, and I don't care if that guy's annoying. I'm really in charge of everything. And then a dream like that will show us, oh no, actually you're not, because there's a lot of anger there. And so it can help us to then work with that dream, play with that dream, unwrap it, perhaps do a dream re-entry where we close our eyes, relax, and go back into that dream, and then play out something different, maybe. See if we want to change something about the way we reacted in that dream, or ask a question of that dream persona, that annoying dream guy who showed up looking like the guy from work. And so we can do this kind of very gentle healing dream work as well when we have these highly emotional dreams.
Right.
So there are all sorts of ways in which dreams can naturally help us to heal.
Okay, and it's interesting that so often, we get triggered by things and people in life when we have an issue about that situation, and so it's even independent of that interaction. And so there's a way that we can even use our waking life situations. Like sometimes I overreact to something. I'm like, what is all that? And then later I go, wait a minute, that was not that big a deal. And so I can go back and say, well, something triggered me there. And so it's like you're talking about lucid, non-lucid, and waking life situations, and same with the emotional reactions in waking life as well.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes it's really helpful to look at a waking life situation as if it were a dream. If this were a dream situation, what would it symbolize? What would be the message for me? Just kind of to play like that with the waking life situation. So dream work always comes in handy, I think.
Dream work is life work, right?
Yeah, it really is. Absolutely.
So let's talk a little about lucid dreaming. We've talked about the way that these different approaches work well both with lucid, non-lucid, and waking life situations. But what's special about lucid dreaming? I'm a little bit of a frustrated lucid dreamer. Get frustrated sometimes. I only lucid dream occasionally, and I rarely have a choice about it. Sometimes I just find myself lucid, and of course that's fine. As you say, the dreams, even the ones we don't remember, are helpful, and yet there's something about lucidity, and I wonder if you want to talk about that, because of course you have 30 years of experience in this lucid dreaming, and this PhD, which was the first ever PhD around creativity and dreaming, makes me really curious about what do you want to say about lucidity where you're at now?
Yeah. So basically, when you become lucid in a dream, as long as the dream is stable, so you can stabilize the lucid dream, which means you calm down, look around, perhaps engage with the dream, remind yourself that this is a dream, just until everything is stable and you have a nice, clear, stable awareness. Once you have that stable awareness, you're then able to take active steps towards healing yourself, if you would like to, since we're on the topic of healing at the moment. So because a lucid dream, well, all dreams actually are thought responsive environments, which means that anything we think or any emotion we feel, any intention we have, instantaneously manifests in the dream. as a general rule, right? So it's like this conversation with the deepest part of ourselves. It's so wonderful. And
I'm sorry. What did you call it? Thought
thought
what?
responsive,
Thought responsive
thought
environment. Okay.
responsive environment.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah, and this, in fact, this teaches us about the power of thoughts, and we can take this into waking life as well, and consider the way that our thoughts shape our own reality, and shape the way that we have relationships with other people, shape everything about our experiences. But back to the lucid dream, you become lucid in your dream. You're in a thought responsive environment. And let's say you have something in your body that you need to heal. You want to heal something.
Like a physical ailment.
Yeah. So you can then use the power of intent to actually direct healing to that part of your body. I can give some examples. I've got loads of examples in the complete book of Lucid Dreaming where I went deeply into this. I'll give a couple of examples from there. So one was William Buhlman, who's written books about out-of-body experiences. He was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer about 10, 15 years ago, something like that. And he had the operation. He had some sort of operation to help him out with that, but he had to heal his body afterwards. I mean, imagine you can't speak, and it must be very, very painful. And he would find himself in a cube of light, like white light, a white light cube. And he would be floating in there in these lucid dreams or out-of-body experiences, and he would feel himself being healed in that state. So that's one example, and he did heal, thank goodness. He came back and he was fine. He made a speedy recovery after his surgery. And there are dreams where you can, for example, Dr. Beverly Durso, she had a uterine cyst and a mass, and the doctor said, come back in 10 days for another scan, but he was a bit, worried about it. And she became lucid in a dream and wanted to heal herself, and these spaceships appeared in the sky and they started zapping energy down onto her. Wow. And it felt like a kind of heat going into her body. And her son was in the dream with her, and he was a bit scared, and she said, no, don't be scared. They came to heal me. And indeed, when she woke up that day, she went back to the doctor, had another scan, and there was nothing. Everything was completely normal, no cyst, no mass. And she felt that lucid dream had activated something within her body to help her to heal. So there are all sorts of examples. And of course, it's anecdotal. We don't know exactly if it was really the lucid dream or if it was some other aspect that actually made things change within the body. But it's very interesting to look into these cases, and I've done this actively myself in lucid dreams. When I've had a physical ailment or problem, then I become lucid in the dream and I direct healing energy towards that part of my body. And I find it very helpful, because I think that the real thing is that there is this very strong connection between the dream body and the waking body.
So what do you mean, the dream body? Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so when we are in dreams, normally, not always, but normally we're running around in some sort of a dream body, right? We're hugging friends, and we're climbing trees, or we're flying along, and sometimes we don't have a dream body. It dissolves, and we're just like a point of awareness. But in many bodies, we have this dream body. Yep. And there have been scientific studies done with lucid dreamers. One great study was done in 2011 by Dr. Dressler, I think it was in Germany. And they did this fist clenching experiment where they asked people while awake to clench their fists, and they just monitored the brain activity. And then they asked them to have a lucid dream, signal with eye movements to show that they were lucid in their dream, and then make that same fist clenching movement. And in fact, the same areas of the brain lit up when the dreamers clenched their dream fist with their dream body, as it did when they did this in waking life.
These are like the brain waves respond in the same way as if they had clenched their fist in waking life? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. So they could actually see that. They could monitor it with polysomnography, and just realize that there's this very strong connection. And of course, we see that as well. Everyone has experienced this waking body, dream body connection when, for example, you have a scary nightmare and you wake up with a gasp and your heart is pounding and you're sweating, and the fear from that dream has caused physical changes in your body, right?
Okay.
So we can feel this connection between the dream body and the waking body. And healing is a state of mind that we can get into, a state of consciousness. And when we are dreaming, we're not in our highly logical sort of waking state. We're in a different state. We're far more creative, far more open-minded, really. And so it's a good state for bringing in healing intention. And we can do this more easily in a lucid dream than when we're in a non-lucid dream. But that does not mean that you have to be lucid in a dream to heal yourself. Absolutely not. I say this to everybody. I get people writing to me, oh, I have a terrible problem with my stomach, but I can't heal it until I become lucid. And I say, well, that's not true. Of course you can. You can totally do this. Some states of consciousness that are very, very good for healing. For example, the yoga nidra where you lie down and you relax. It's like you do this often at the end of a yoga class.
I love that.
You relax your body until the point where you can't really feel your body anymore. And you're just floating on the edge of sleep. You might get some hypnagogic imagery or sensations coming in. These are the sensations we all have as we're dropping into sleep. And that is an optimal state for setting intentions of any kind. It's a very, very creative state of consciousness, and it's great for healing as well. And so in that sort of in-between state of deep relaxation, you can then send healing light or healing energy to a particular area of your body. And that can be, just as helpful as trying this in a lucid dream. And you can also incubate a dream, a regular dream, not necessarily a lucid one, by saying to yourself before you go to bed, okay, tonight I'd like to have a dream to help me heal my knee. And you keep focusing on that and think about your knee before you go to sleep and imagine yourself having that healing dream. So this dream incubation is also very important and a great state of consciousness for receiving a lucid dream or a non-lucid dream, but a dream that helps you to heal. So there are all sorts of ways of healing. We don't have to be lucid, is my point.
Well, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
And it seems like these things can kind of blend together, that if as you're falling asleep, you're thinking about healing your knee or whatever, the issue is that itself is a kind of incubation.
Yeah, exactly.
I was also thinking of these studies. I've heard that when you imagine doing a certain task or certain athletic feat or something, that you do you actually activate your brain state, but you actually activate the muscles in your body, and not as strongly as if you were actually like clenching your fist, but the muscles get activated. And maybe that has something to do with how dreams help heal us, because they actually activate the body. They do literally activate the body,
They literally do. That's exactly it. It's a really good point. And there have also been studies done that show that that visualizing in the waking state, so just relaxing and visualizing yourself healthy, can really help people to heal faster. And this was a study that was done with I think 500 kids, and they all had different issues, and basically half of them were taught to visualize and to imagine themselves healing and see themselves in perfect health, and the other half weren't talked to about that at all. And the ones who had done the visualization had, I think it was something like 35% faster healing rate.
Wow.
It was that was really impressive. I can't remember which book it is in. It might be an Elixir of Sleep or Dream Therapy or something, but I've reported it in one or two of the books.
Right.
And I find this fascinating. I think that our minds are way more powerful than most of us believe. And so when we accept that and we recognize, okay, I do have the ability to accelerate my healing, I do have the ability to change something within myself, then we can really we can go far. But it's a lot of people feel like, oh no, I can't. I need to go to a doctor, or I have to have an exact, specific set of circumstances to be able to heal, and it's more rigid. Now, I do believe in going to the doctor. Sure, go to the doctor, find out, and get whatever help you can. But it's good as well not to give away all of the power and just be passive and be like, oh, well, I better take, I'll take these pills and that's all I can do. Actually, there's more that we can do when we're ill. There is more that we can do. We can tap into our inner reserves of healing. We can look to our dreams. We can even, this is what I'm saying as well about the joy factor. Yeah. When we bring more joy into our lives, that joy state is very, very much linked with healing. It's because it's one of the highest states of consciousness.
Right.
It's a state where anything is possible.
Absolutely. And it also makes me think this is another reason to not put up with nightmares. Like when you have repetitive nightmares that people are like, oh, that's just normal. I don't care. I'm just going to ignore that. And yet that's affecting our physical body as well. So, and of course, for people with PTSD and trauma, it's very, very intense. And but even with like idiopathic nightmares that just come and go, like I'm prone to nightmares fairly frequently. They come and go. Sometimes I have more and less. And I think there's always something valuable there, but don't put up with nightmares because they're affecting your body, and there's ways to heal nightmares.
Yeah, exactly. That's really, really valid point. I mean, it sounds to me, Katherine, like you appreciate your nightmares in a way, even if they're probably, obviously horrible sometimes. But
I do. And and I must say, I appreciate them more in retrospect than in the moment. Like when I wake up, I'm like, what was that? But then I'm like, okay, wait. Yeah. There's something gift here. There's something valuable here, and there's some information here, and there's some like you said, like the idea of like yelling at a coworker, and then I didn't realize I was so angry. Like it helps bring things to awareness, and so I have learned to trust them, and so I definitely find them valuable, and I would love to minimize them.
I know. I mean, I still have so many people who come to me asking about nightmares. You probably know this book, don't you? The Art of Transforming Nightmares.
Love that book. Yes.
Yeah, that's got tons of techniques, and one of the most important techniques in there that I came up with from years of working with people is the lucid imaging nightmare solution. Ooh. And that's when you've had a nightmare. You wake up and first of all, you calm your body. You go and get a drink of water or just make sure you feel okay. And then once you're back in bed, if you feel safe to do so, if you feel happy to do so, you can re-enter the nightmare. But knowing that you are in control now, that you're lying in bed, you're just relaxing, and you go in there basically knowing that you can fast forward the nightmare or rewind it. It's like you have the control. You can pause it. And what I say to people is go back to the tipping point, which is the moment when the dream got so anxious or frightening that it turned into a nightmare. Like the moment when suddenly the horrible man leaps out of the shadows, But sometimes they don't have a tipping point that you can identify. So just go back to the beginning or go back to any point in the nightmare where you want to go. And then you press play and you relive the nightmare, but as if it's a lucid dream, as if you are aware and you know that you can call for help, you can call for strong allies, or you can obtain information from the nightmare figure. Why are you chasing me? Or why are you trying to make me feel scared? See if an answer comes, because since you've had this nightmare very recently, because normally I suggest people do this once they've woken up from it, you're still kind of in that dreamy state of consciousness, and you can get some real information from the people or the animals who are in that particular nightmare. And you can change something in that scenario if you want. Some people find the most helpful thing to do is simply relive it, but without fear or without whatever the dominant emotion was. Just knowing, okay, I'm safe in my bed. I'm just going to have a look at that really weird figure that leapt from the darkness. I'm going to see if it reminds me of anything. And then perhaps you'll start being able to piece it together a bit like a dream detective. Totally. But at some point, you'll find some sort of solution, some sort of resolution within that nightmare. And you'll know it because you'll feel it in your body. You'll be like, okay, I feel better now.
Right.
You know, that nightmare figure wasn't so scary, and actually he's kind of funny, and we just had a laugh together, and I'm not bothered anymore, you know, whatever it is. And then this is just a way of working with the nightmare very quickly, straight after it's happened. And I've tried it as well with my daughter when she was younger. I would just sit with her in the night and talk her through this. And honestly, the most scary nightmare, within about 5 or 6 minutes, it was nothing important for her anymore. It was okay. She'd understood it. She'd taken something from it, and then she went peacefully back to sleep.
I love that.
So, yeah.
So working with it right away, like in the moment, like as soon as you wake up, and not wait if you want. Like I glad you have that.
If you feel safe,
that level of consent in there is very important.
Yeah.
So this is this is wonderful. This is Clare Johnson, Dr. Clare Johnson, who I realize I don't think I ever actually read your bio. That's okay.
She did a few things and wrote a few books.
A few things. Yeah, that's it. And she's
that's all right.
So we're going to talk a lot more to Clare after this short break. In fact, I want to talk a little bit about her book. She has written 8 books relating to dreams, and I want to talk a little bit about the inspiration for that and the publishing process. And we have more questions about lucid dreaming, because there's always more questions about lucid dreaming, for sure. So this is Lucid Johnson, Clare Johnson, and Clare's webpage is called deepluciddreaming.com. So you can look her up there. She has all kinds of fabulous retreats and a lot of online content that's available. So take a look at deepluciddreaming.com. So the Dream Journal is broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU, and also up at KOWS in Sonoma. We are podcast everywhere. If you love listening to the podcast, you will love watching it. Check out full-length videos on my YouTube page at Experiential Dreamwork. People all over the world are interested in their dreams. If you would like to help us nudge that algorithm to help spread interest in dreaming, please subscribe to the Dream Journal on your favorite podcast app. And thank you all for your generous ratings and reviews. And thanks so much for sharing episodes on your social media. And really, most importantly, I encourage listeners to consider telling your friends about the show. It gives you a chance to talk about the idea of dreaming and what you're interested in, and you might just find your next dream sharing buddy. It is all about sharing dreams, and I think the world will be a better place when more people are listening to their dreams and talking about them with their friends. So today's guest is Dr. Clare Johnson, and her webpage is deepluciddreaming.com. We're talking about lucid dreaming and how dreams heal us, and so much more. And I'd like to start by talking about you as an author, because you are an incredible author with 8 published books to your name, and I'm sure you're working on something else. And I wonder if you'd like to talk a little bit about what that's like, because I'm an aspiring author. I'm looking to get a book published, and I'd love some inspiration. So Clare, what can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, it's interesting. There are lots of people at the moment, Katherine, who are writing dream books. And one of the reasons I know that is because my inbox is full of people requesting that I read their manuscripts and send them an endorsement comment. And oh my gosh, I have a backlog, honestly, of manuscripts to read. It's exciting. I mean, it's great that so many people are writing about dreams. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Good. I'm glad there's interest in the world around dreaming right now.
Exactly. I really feel that publishers as well are much more open these days to topics around dreaming and sleep, which is fantastic. And one thing I did last year, for the first time in many years, because I hadn't had time before, was I mentored an exceptional writer for 6 months, and I took her from book idea all the way through to she wrote the whole book, and then we pitched it. I pitched it to one of my editors, and within 4 hours we got an affirmative response.
6 months to write a book. That's impressive.
Oh yeah, she cleared her schedule. She stopped all her work and she just went for it. And she was a very, very talented writer, and she it was a dream book, and she allowed her dreams to help the writing process to flourish. And so she's now got that book deal, and her book's coming out in October.
Exciting.
And it's about dreams and plant magic. So it's a very beautiful book. And that was an amazing process for me to kind of go through the book writing process, but not having to do the writing myself. Kind of cool. It's like, right, nose to the grindstone. I'll see you next week. Yeah, because writing, oh my gosh, I mean, it's not such a breeze, right? It's something that if you're doing authentic writing, like I'm not talking about asking AI to help you or whatever, I'm saying like authentic writing, like pull it out from your soul, pull that writing out from your dreams and touch something totally real within yourself and bring that out. It's not that easy, and nor is it easy to research, to spend loads of time researching your topics or gathering dreams from loads of other people around the globe. It's very exciting, but it's time consuming. So writing a book is a big thing, right? Yeah. So I guess what I'd like to say about all of this, I'd love to encourage people to write their dream books. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your dream book, Katherine. I mean, what sort of stage is it at? I don't know how secretive you want to be.
Well, I actually have a manuscript and I'm looking for a publisher. So I've been through one big round of developmental editing, which was a huge process in its own right. It took me over a year to incorporate all of the editor's suggestions, to totally restructure the book. I had a whole series of nightmares about the editing process, because it's like taking my tender words and ripping and slashing but pasting them back together beautifully, and like really I'm so much more happy with the book now, but it was a very intense process. And so I'm ready. I'm ready for a publisher.
That's amazing. I totally get that. I've written books before where, especially this was the hardest one, The Art of Transforming Nightmares, because everyone sent me loads of nightmares.
I'm sure.
I was like drowning in nightmares. And literally, I would get up from my desk here and I'd put the music on loud and I would just dance and dance and dance until like everything was out of me. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to carry on writing my nightmare book. Sit back down again and write. So I totally get the nightmare element of the book writing. And yes, having the editorial input can be painful. It's like you're wearing like these really old comfortable clothes that you absolutely love, and someone's like, take all those off. They don't work anymore. You're going to have to put them back together. You can sew, you can use the same material, but you have to sew it back together in different ways. And you're going, oh no. And
right.
Then you have this lovely new outfit on and you're like, oh, actually, this is way better.
Way better, because we get in our habits. We wear the same clothes till the buttons fall off. And yet, it's so comfy, but the new stuff is so much better. If you find an editor that you really trust, that is gold. I mean, that was big for me to actually find an editor and she's been helping me with my proposal letter and everything, because
that's so important.
Yeah, you have to write.
I was about to say.
Tell us about the proposal.
Yeah,
letter.
You've got to have a pitch. People talk about the elevator pitch. You've got to be able to say, in under 60 seconds, you've got to be able to tell people or tell a potential editor what the content and the reason of your book is. What's this about, and who's it going to help, or why would we want to read it? And that's got to be very, very brief, because editors don't have that much time, but they will recognize an original concept like that. They'll get it. They'll be like, okay. And then, once you've got your foot through the door with that, you can share a longer proposal, or, like a one-page proposal or something. And then I think it's very important as well these days, they want you to know your audience.
Yes.
Who is this actually for? And I know it's all very lovely to say to yourself, well, I'm writing this book for myself, and that's fine. But when it gets to publication time, if you really want to attract a high quality publisher, then you need to actually know who this book is going to help. And that is also why a lot of writers have to change the structure of what they've written, because they've gone into their own mind and they've gone into a convoluted process. But in fact, we want clarity as well, and we want something useful. We want something where the reader can engage with it and be like, oh wow, that could help me in my life. So we have to make the book more reader centric.
Right.
So there are all sorts of things like that. It's just really, it's really exciting to write a book and then be ready, start getting ready to birth it, to go through that publishing process. But it is important to have that clarity of knowing, who the book is going to help, how is it going to help them, and why is this book like no other book on the market? Because they don't want one that's like all the other books on the market. They want one that only you can write. It's got to come from you, something like a fusion of your own unique creativity.
Right. Well, I made the decision to only quote my own dreams in my book. And so it's really very personal book that way. And I have 120 dreams in there of my own dreams and what they meant to me. And I use that to explain the different ways that I work with dreams and how they help me heal. Like I'll go through a whole series of dreams. Like we had a big fire out here, wildfire, in 2020, which is right before I started writing the book. And I had a whole series of dreams that helped me calm down after that because we were evacuated. The fire came within, I see burned trees outside the window. If I lift the blind, it's right next to the house. And so I was really had a lot of trauma around that. And I had a whole series of dreams that helped me kind of come back down to earth around the fear of this fire. And so I shared like a whole series of dreams around that to show the way dreams naturally help us heal. And, I talk about my own sexuality and how dreams have helped with that. And relationships, talk about spirituality, feelings, a lot about feelings, of course. But I decided not to quote other people's dreams. And yet I have a diversity of dreams. And yet very few lucid dreams, very few visitation dreams, because I just don't have that many of those kinds of dreams. But this is my experience, and I hope this inspires readers to have their own experience and to pay attention to what they are doing.
Wonderful. So that it really is a truly unique book. Yeah. That sounds amazing. And, I like the idea of, how you have these series of dreams, because dreams really do unfold, don't they? And sometimes when we're really stumped with a dream, it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this dream? I'm trying to do dream work. I'm trying to figure this thing out. I can't crack it, Then we say to ourselves, okay, so maybe this is part of a series. And sure enough, 3 nights later, boom, we get part 2.
Right.
It's as if the dream's saying, you're not ready yet for everything I have to tell you about this. So I'm just going to give it to you every few days or once a week. And it's really great the way that there's so much wisdom in our dreams. And the dreams know how the healing is. They know how long it takes to heal from the shock and the horror of nearly losing your home and and other situations like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing about recurring dreams is they're often a very different venue. It may look very different, but sometimes the feeling is what's are in common between the dreams.
Exactly.
So the feeling is what's evolving. So you might say, oh, I'm being chased by a bear. How's that relating to finding a well? But there's some feeling that has in common. Like I'm running away from the bear, but maybe I'm running toward the well. Like maybe there's something that I'm bringing up here that the bear is chasing me toward. And so sometimes it helps, and I do this with my clients all the time. They'll send me like 4 or 5 dreams, and often there's like this thread that kind of works its way through the dreams that they didn't see, and I don't even really see until we start talking about it. And like, so what's happening in your life? What does this remind you of? And then we start to say, oh yeah, that's like that other piece in the other dream, and then we start to string them together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's really beautiful to do that. It really is like being a detective.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Pick up little clues and emotional links and
And it's a chance for a beginner's mind. I always start with like, well, I know nothing about this dream. I know nothing about even this person I may have worked with for years. I have to assume that there may be something new coming up here, and I have to be open to that, and just asking a lot of questions and. So, but what about your book ideas? Like, you must get a lot of your ideas in dreams. As I recall, when we talked about Elixir of Sleep, you basically dreamed the whole book or the table of contents or something.
That's right. Yeah. So with Elixir of Sleep, I think we may have talked about this on a previous show with you, right?
So.
So with that book, yeah, there was like, I was in the lucid void. There was nothing. It was all like blackness. And then suddenly there was this illuminated manuscript, and I was trying to read it, and I had to wake up and write down what I'd seen or read. And I realized it was the manuscript of a book that I was going to have to write.
Wow.
And I didn't want to write another book. I was like, I'm done with it. Yeah.
Guess
And
not.
yeah, no, yeah, that's it. And then the editor wrote to me that morning and said, "Oh, just send through some ideas." And I looked down, and there was this book. Well, it was a table of contents for the book. So I sent that off, and that became Elixir of Sleep. That one. Yeah.
Right. Now you also have several novels, right?
Yeah.
I haven't read in your novels, but you have a couple of them. They're kind of dream focused, I gather. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. Yeah. So one of them, the first one, is called Breathing in Color, and I wrote that as part of my PhD on lucid dreaming, because my PhD was on lucid dreaming as a tool for the creative process, right? And so to kind of experiment that and dive into that really deeply, I wrote a novel that was drawn from my lucid dreams. So it was inspired by lucid dreams every step of the process. And that was amazing. So like, for example, once I got stuck on the voice of the girl. There's an 18-year-old girl in the book, and I was like, oh, she just sounds like the same as the other character. Oh, she doesn't sound alive. And I fell asleep, and I had a lucid dream that I was on the beach, and I reached out my hand to grab some sand, and before I actually looked at the sand, I felt that it was the color orange. It was seeping into the cells of the palm of my hand. It was orange, and I was like, oh my gosh, is it orange? And yes, it was glowing orange. And so that dream was basically my first really intense dream experience of synesthesia, which is when the senses are intermingled, right? And I didn't even know about synesthesia, but when I woke from that lucid dream, I looked it up, and I was like, oh, I know, this is what it is. This is going to be the voice of my character. And so then I started writing from the perspective or the feelings of someone whose senses are intermingled, so they can taste shapes, or feel colors. And it was so fascinating. And then I would actively go into my lucid dreams and say, I would like to experience synesthesia. And then I would touch things and see kind of how that felt in my body. Like I would touch something and I would get the taste of something in my mouth, right, in the dream. So interesting. And so that kind of all really poured into my writing. And generally, so much in that book, like everything that I'd seen in my lucid dreams, if I saw something shocking, like I saw some, I think there were flowers, I can't remember the color of the petals, but they were floating down a river, but they had a blue eye at the center of each flower. And I was like, wow, that's so trippy. And so that went into my book as well, that kind of thing. So yeah, Breathing in Color was very much based on my lucid dream experiences, and it's about a kid that goes missing while she's in India, and her mother goes out to look for her. So it's kind of a quest novel, but it also has this synesthesia element, and lucid dreams are, of course, in that book as well. Yeah, and then I wrote another novel called Dream Runner, which was inspired by this guy I met. He was sitting at the table with me at somebody's wedding, and he told me that he had a sleep disturbance where he would leap out of bed in the night and do something violent, right? This is known as RBD, REM sleep behavior disorder. Normally we're all naturally paralyzed when we're asleep and dreaming to keep us safe. But this guy was enacting his dreams. He was enacting his nightmares. And it was getting very, very scary because he was putting his partner at risk, because he would sometimes have a dream that there was a burglar, someone breaking in. And so he'd be fighting off the burglar, and it was his girlfriend, so very, very scary and dangerous. And when he told me about this, I was just so fascinated by this. And I started dreaming about that kind of situation. And that's when I knew, oh my gosh, this has really got into my head. I think I'm going to have to write a book about this. And so I wrote a novel based in Portugal all about the effect that RBD, REM sleep behavior disorder, so violent dream enactment, has on the life of a young family. So that was that novel. So they were both very much dream based. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. So I realize we haven't talked much about the IASD conference coming up in
Oh, yeah.
June. Dr. Clare Johnson is our first keynote for the IASD conference, and it's national in Oregon. And you'll be talking. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you'll be talking about?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very excited about this. My presentation is going to be on healing dreams and the joy factor, exploring dream body intelligence. So this is actually a lot of what we talked about at the beginning of our chat together, Catherine, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, about dream healing, how it works, and what we can do to actually help ourselves to heal using the dream state and the lucid dream state. So I'll be going into all of that at the conference. And I was thinking about giving a workshop this year, but in the end I decided not to. Normally I do, right? I normally always do. But it's because straight after that, I'm leading a healing dreams retreat on Hawaii. And that's like a 5-day retreat. And I thought, my gosh, if I do like the keynote and then I do workshops and then I go off to Hawaii and then I teach that for 5 days, it's just going to be too much. But I kind of regret it now because I have this amazing dream body workshop that would have fitted really well with my keynote presentation. But
Well,
yeah.
we'll have to see if there's a space for you, but it sounds like you have a pretty full schedule.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just do it at the next IASD
Oh,
conference.
that'll be perfect. That'll be wonderful. So you do have these retreats that you offer. You have the one in Hawaii. I know you sometimes have them in other places around the world. What else are you doing that you want to let our listeners know about, Claire?
Oh, well, so I offer several retreats a year. One is in Portugal this year. That one's already sold out though. And then there's the Hawaii one that's on the 20th to the 24th of June on the Big Island. And apart from that, well, actually what I'm doing now is writing another book, even though I decided again that I wasn't going to write a book. So I'm trying not to do too many in-person things this year. I led a 6-week course earlier, and I will lead another 6-week class at the beginning of next year. But what I always have that's ongoing is my video classes and guided lucid meditations. So I have guided meditations for like healing, also healing from grief, so kind of reconnecting with deceased loved ones. I have classes on portals, like portals into lucid dreaming or out-of-body experiences, and basically pretty much everything to do with dreams and nightmares and sleep. There's a whole big course called The Power of Sleep as well. So that's kind of like an ongoing thing that I offer.
And those are on your webpage so you can access them.
Yeah, you can reach those on deepluciddreaming.com. Just click on classes or click on retreats if you wanna check out the retreats. And and there's tons of information on that website. Plus, I now have a podcast. So I thought I'd follow in your footsteps, Catherine, and do a podcast. So my podcast is called Sleep and Deep Lucid Dreaming, and I interview writers and dream specialists, sleep specialists, consciousness explorers once a month, and we have great deep conversations. So really excited about that. I've been recording quite a few in the past few months because I'm going to be so busy with all the traveling that I'm going to, I have to schedule them in advance. So I've got some great speakers coming up, and I'm really excited about that.
Well, when my book comes out, I'm going to be knocking you up for an interview. If not even a blurb, maybe. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Get on your calendar.
In my inbox. Yeah.
So Claire, do you have any last minute encouragements you want to offer to our listeners? Last minute takeaways, inspirations?
Yeah. So I think the main thing to remember is that we can heal ourselves. We can accelerate our healing process. We have so many resources, so many powerful resources within us. So we just need to learn how to activate them, and also bring more joy into our lives. It's so important to feel that joy. And when we have joy, it gives us the strength to help other people. So if times are hard, if there are difficult situations, just Go outside, find a flower, look at it, feel the beauty, or do something in nature. Nature is so full of joy, actually. It's really incredible to do that and fill up your soul like that. And also look to your dreams. If you're writing down your dreams, keeping a dream journal, you can flick back and just see, oh, when did I experience joy? Or when did I see something exceptionally beautiful? Or something that made me feel happy? And just like bring those moments into you. I have a lot of somatic techniques that I teach in my workshops and retreats. And one of them that I really love, which is also very healing, is to stand and just totally relax and close your eyes. And then imagine this like ball of light at the top of your head. And into that ball of light, you bring some joy from your dream or a really beautiful healing dream image, and you allow it to fill that ball of light, and then you bring it down into your head and all the way down through your body, and it's just beautiful. And you can just breathe in that joy or that healing dream image, breathe it right into your body, and it helps. It raises your happiness levels. So anything that does that, I think, is worth trying.
Absolutely. It is. It is so worth it. Thank you so much, Claire. It is a real pleasure to speak with you as always. And I'm excited to see you at the conference in June.
Yes, that's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Claire. So thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. I'm Katherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. You can email me at katherine@ksqd.org, Katherine. Follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag The Dream Journal on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn and YouTube to keep up with the shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator. Audio editing by Suki Wessling. Intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
There's a